So what's going on, America? I'm going to make this as brief as possible because it's in the title of the video. If you stand behind the AR-15, if you stand behind the right to bear arms, firearms that is, then you stand behind freedom and you stand behind the Constitution of the United States of America. A Constitution that no other government on this planet has ever had or ever will have. Make no mistake about it. This is the greatest nation on the face of the planet, and it always will be as long as we stick to the basics. It's just like cars. You know, back in the 80s, you didn't have all these complications, all these high-tech gadgets and all that stuff. If you had a problem, 9 to 10. If you changed the oil, if you had gas in it, you kept spark plugs going, you might have a carburetor problem. You pull over, you jam a knife in the carburetor, you keep on trucking it until you can clean it later. Keeping it simple has always worked for America. But no, people want to evolve, they want to make things worse. 1776, America got its independence, we got our Declaration, all that great stuff that started the founding principles of the United States. And it was all accomplished by firearms. Sure, back then it was muskets. But you know, back then there was tyranny, there was oppression. There was government overreach doing what they wanted to do, telling people how they should live, how they wanted them to live, all that good stuff. Then fast forward. Same thing. Civil War. There was a government who decided that they were going to do things their way, that they wanted people to live how they wanted them to live, and that they were willing to succeed to continue living that lifestyle. But then again, ta-da, firearms. Firearms that evolved with time, evolved with tyranny that got much worse. The tyranny in which said, we're going to keep slaves. We're going to keep them forever. So a bunch of good Americans with their upgraded firearms said, no, we're going to take our right to bear arms. We're going to go bear those arms. And we're going to go shed lots and lots and lots of bullets into the asses of a bunch of Confederates so that other people may have their freedom. Just like what happened in World War I, World War II. A bunch of good Americans took those firearms. They went over to Nazi Germany and they ended the mess that was over there. People elected Hitler as the chancellor. They elected him. They believed in him. They let things go. Here you go. Here's your party. We trust you. Then when they come knocking on the Jews' doors to kill them, they didn't have no alternative. They had no way, no means of fighting. They trusted in a system. And people this day and age still bring up the Civil War. You bring up the Civil War and racism and reparations and blah, 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 blah. And everybody wants to talk about the Civil War. It was like 150 years ago, folks. Nazi Germany was like 50 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. Our grandparents, living and breathing today, there's still some left, that went over there and fought the Nazis. And to think that no, tyranny couldn't exist, World War couldn't exist, another Hitler couldn't happen, we don't need our guns, that's just ignorance. It wasn't that long ago. that this happened. And now here we are, trying to trust in a system that sends bombs and military weapons overseas and kills people for oil, kills people for drugs, for opium, murders them every day, takes money from Planned Parenthood and funds them every day for people to murder their own children, and then turns around and pretends like they support protecting children. If they really, truly cared, losing a kid by a shooting is horrible. But it's just as horrible to lose a child to a drug overdose. It's just as horrible to lose a child to a drunk driver. But they don't want to put more restrictions on drugs. They don't want to stop the drugs because Big Pharma is making billions of dollars. That's the one war America has lost. The war on drugs has went on for a few decades now. And the war on drugs was only meant to be the war on drug cartels and the war on American citizens who was dabbling in the drugs. And once all those people was locked up, it made all the American people look at the government and say, yeah, take more of our money. Take more of our money. Stop these drugs. Stop these cartels. Stop this bad stuff. Because they gave you a bad guy. And the bad guy was them bad drug dealers. So you offer them up because they showed you in the media. Here's the bad guys. So it makes you comfortable. And you're like, here you go. You can have these people. You can have them. Makes you comfortable with what the government's doing. But that was all for show. They hire more cops. They tell you they need more laws. You think it's all in for the greater good, the better interest of everybody. And then what happens? The damn government become the drug dealers. Big Pharma become the drug dealers, the drug pushers. They went to war. They got the opium. Then you got your doctors. You got your big pharmaceutical companies. You got your pharmacies. All of them pushing drugs on the streets more than ever before. That's why we're in the middle of the biggest drug epidemic that America has ever seen. Because the damn government is the drug dealers. Pain clinics open up left and right, left and right, left and right, all over the place. Pill pipeline, everywhere. ODs going on, people dying, people cheating, people losing their families, their loved ones, their relationships. Everybody blames the drugs. Blames the addicts. Talks about people being on food stamps, this, that, and the other. Same thing. Then they're like, oh, yeah, blame the addicts. We need more cops on the street. You let us tax you. We'll put more cops on the street. We need more federal funding. We're going to build a new jailhouse. We're going to build a new courthouse. We're going to have more cops. And then they present people as drug dealers in the media. So the people of the community keep saying, yes, take our money. You're doing what's good for the country. You're locking these people up. People's kids are dying. Nobody feels sorry for them. It's still a tragedy because them kids died because of drugs that the government allowed to get on the street. And that's sad. It's just as sad as a kid getting killed by a gun or a drunk driver. They just don't plaster it all over the media because nobody feels sorry for an addict. Even though it's somebody's kid. The point here is drug clinics open up all the time. $150 can get you in. They write you 2 or 3 different types of pills. Send you on your way another 30 days. No counseling. No counseling. No rehab. No piss test. No pill counts. No therapy. No nothing. Get what you want going out the door. And then whenever it reaches all-time highs and people wanted something done about it, DEA comes in, shuts everybody down. Then rehab clinics open. People want to get their life back. Then they 3 times the price to go get rehab as it did to get hooked on the shit in the first place. And then the medication costs 5 times what it costs to go get the painkillers prescribed. So what happens? Cash money. Doctors make it big bank again. People have no choice but to sell their medication to go get the help that they're getting to begin with. And then the cycle repeats itself. More cops, more drug problems, more federal funding. Trust the government. All the while, governments won't pass state laws saying doctors need to do this, they need to do that, they need to have these tests, they need to have those tests. Insurance can pay for this, let's give them this certain medication. They want to keep you on the stuff that keeps you hooked because they want you dependent. They need you dependent on the government. They need you dependent on the system. They want you to say, I'm sick, I'm unhealthy, blah, 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 blah. Well, we got a solution. Your health is your life. Hand over your gun rights. Support us. Support the Democrats. Vote for us. Because health is important to you, but we're going to ban guns. But we'll make sure we pass health care reform. And then you vote based on that. A little bit at a time. That's why there's more illegals in this country now than ever. That's why we're trillions and trillions of dollars in debt now more than ever. That's why manufacturing coming out of America is an all-time low. They want to import voters, put Americans out of work, put you underneath the government boot, squeeze every penny they can out of you, and make you dependent on the government. Then they're silencing people on the internet. They're attacking your free speech. They're persecuting people who stand up for Christ. Now they're wanting to take away your guns. Everything they are doing, everything that's going on in the government is pushing people under a government boot that says, trust us with everything you got, give us everything you got, and we'll make it all go away. But just like the drugs, just like the war on drugs, they shut down all these drug dealers, and then the government got in the drug business and started dealing themselves. People are going to allow the government to take away your gun rights, and they're going to be the only people with the guns. You know, it's funny because all the people, all the liberals and everybody getting behind Trump, you've been calling him Hitler. You've been calling him a Nazi and Hitler for the past 2 years. And now you're wanting Hitler to take away the guns. The Nazis walked up to the Jews' homes, knocked on the door, said, guess what? You all elected him chancellor. You trusted in him for these certain things. Now we coming to collect. We coming to kill you. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. Because you ain't got no guns. You're not going to kill one or two of us. They come up to your door knocking. You're beat. Your family's beat. You do what you're told. And for any Christians out there, reading Revelations ought to be an eye-opener. Because everything Revelations talks about is going on today. And eventually the government's going to get that way. The only way you keep freedom is you keep your right to bear arms. You go up to anybody that's got a weapon or that's bigger and better than what you are, you're going to think twice about messing with them. It's common sense. If I go up to somebody and I try to start a fight, and he's an MMA fighter with a baseball bat, I'm going to be nice to him. Going to be very nice to that person. But if I walk up to that person and he's an MMA fighter with no weapon, and I'm the only guy with a gun, then I can do what I want to. Guns have been in the fabric of America since the very beginning. And people can argue what you want to about guns changing hands. The government has a bad history of taking things away from people and then getting in the business them damn selves. And they only use and exploit these tragedies for a vote or some political agenda. If they really gave a shit about kids dying, they wouldn't be supporting abortion. They wouldn't be supporting alcohol because, you know, the mainstream media don't put DUI crashes on TV all the time for the world to see because it's bad news. They want people to go out here and drink and have fun and be merry, and they don't care if your kids die in a DUI crash. They don't care. Because if they die, oh well. They can't use it for a political agenda. But guns they can. Just like opiates they can. but they don't parade it around. Guns they can parade around. It depends on what the object is and how many people they can pull into it for votes. That's what they want. But whenever it comes down to it, you need to think this, whether it's now or 150 years from now, folks. Our military's changing. The nation's changing. The culture, the society. Everybody wants to blame the NRA. The NRA gives thousands of dollars to these politicians. Like it's a bad idea. Okay. What about the big pharmaceutical companies who gives billions of dollars? And every mass shooter so far has been on some kind of drug that has some kind of side effect, and nobody wants to address it. Because all the politicians and the media is all getting donations from big pharmaceutical companies, which is worse than the NRA. The NRA gives, they support a constitutional right, not a legislated privilege, a constitutional right that won this country its freedom and has maintained its freedom and gained other people their freedom and has stopped evil acts all around the world. You give up your right to have an equalizer, then you give up your freedom. They can come in and take anything they want to when you have no means to defend yourself. And they're running roughshod over the Constitution already. It's just a matter of time before they're like, let's just be done with it. Let's just end the Constitution. We can take away gun rights. We can take away free speech. We can create hate speech. Then anybody on Facebook who offends you, instead of them getting kicked off Facebook, they can go to jail. They're already locking up people, fining people $250,000 for misgendering somebody in New York. How long is it going to be before people's put in jail for it? How long is it going to be before somebody knocks on your door and says, listen, your kid said at school that they didn't believe in God, and you're mentally abusing them for trying to teach them about God, so we're taking them out of your home. That's what these are here for. And it says, our rights shall not be infringed on the matter. Because at some point someday, if our military ends up becoming a military of nothing but trannies, and they want to talk out their emotions instead of go to war, they're liable to go overseas sometime, and they're going to likely end up getting their ass kicked at some point in time. And then let's say a Pearl Harbor scenario happens where our supposed allies turn on us and take out our military, take out our defenses. Let's say the Democrats make that law against Trump to where we're not allowed to nuke people, but they can nuke us first. What's going to happen? People are going to stroll across those open borders that everybody wants. And they're going to come take our country and do with us and our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren what the hell ever they want to do with us. Because we won't be able to defend ourselves. Because we elected a bunch of numbskulls to take away our rights. Behind every blade of grass, there's been firearms for decades. And that's why there has never been a war on American soil other than the one we started ourselves to gain other people their freedom by the hand of a gun. And nobody on this earth, everybody can say that they're weapons of war. The AR-15 is a weapon of war. You're damn right it's a weapon of war. Whenever the time comes that it needs to be a weapon of war. Because someday, like I said, now, 2 weeks from now, 20 years, 250 years from now, if we are ever invaded, if our government ever tries to do what Hitler done, that's why the founding fathers gave us the gun rights, so that we will always be able to maintain our freedoms. And taking away them AR-15s takes away our right to defend our own lives and our own country. And it's my body, and it's my right to defend my life with a .22 caliber revolver if I see fit, or I might wake up one morning and decide to pick up a .500 Magnum, a 12 gauge 20 gauge, a Mossberg, a Remington, a Winchester, a 40 caliber, an AR-15, whatever the hell I see fit. I might just buy a bunch of them and stock them up and never fire them the first damn time. But in the event that something happens, I want to be able to do it. And if nothing happens in my generation, hopefully it don't happen to my kids or my grandkids, but if it does, I want them to have the right to choose to bear arms and to fight for their life and their country and their families. And I want that right to be there. I don't want to be in the generation that's seen those rights be taken away so that they can be the next people fed to death camps because we elected a bunch of idiots to take away our rights. If you support gun rights, you support and stand behind the AR-15, you stand behind freedom. Because that's the only way it's ever going to be preserved, is by fighting for it. There's a lot more that could be said on the issue, but I just wanted to speak a little bit of my piece tonight. Let me know what you think.